she's ready. Are you ready to go? Okay. Oh, hang on. Now we're good? Okay. We're going to call the Star City Council meeting to order. It's Tuesday, March 19th, 2024 at 7 p.m. here at the Star City Hall. I'm going to have you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to ask Miss Janice if you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. To the republic, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. I'm sorry, invocation time. Sorry, Pastor Axe. We have Pastor David Axe with the Calvary Star Church here to do our invocation tonight.
It is an honor to be with you again. If you would bow your heads and pray. Heavenly Father, we are again amazed at the opportunity to come before you and ask, Lord, as many cities seek to sustain the well-being, God, that we have the opportunity to be involved in the planning, Lord, the implementing and building for the future. As the uniqueness of Star is before us day by day, give us wisdom. Lord, give us your heart, your understanding, your will for this place. Lord, continue to build the community. And Lord, we pray for the mayor and the council, that there be such a wonderful unity as things continue to grow here. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much. All right, roll call.
Kevin Wheelock.
Here.
Trevor Chadwick.
Here.
Jennifer Salmonson. Here. Kevin Nielsen.
Present.
And Councilman Hershey is absent and excused. Okay, we're going to move on to presentations. We're going to start out with a proclamation tonight for the Daughters of the American Revolution Hidden Heroes. I'm going to read the proclamation, and then I'm going to introduce Miss Janice back here, and then she's going to say a few words. And then we'll all go down here and do a picture with the fine ladies back here with the Daughters of the American Revolution. That work? All right. And so let me get a drink here because this one's long, so hang on. All right. City of Star, Idaho proclamation in support of the City of Star's military caregivers in collaboration with Idaho's Daughters of the American Revolution and Hidden Heroes. Whereas a series of wars and conflicts in which our nation has been engaged over time since World War II has resulted in 5.5 million military and veteran caregivers who are parents, spouses, siblings, and friends, caring for those wounded, ill, or injured who have served our nation, as documented by the 2014 RAND study commissioned by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And whereas most military and veteran caregivers consider the challenging work they do as simply carrying out their civic and patriotic duty without realizing they are, in fact, caregivers and do not identify themselves as such. And whereas an alarming number of military and veteran caregivers, according to research, are suffering numerous debilitating mental, physical, and emotional effects as a result of their caregiving duties. And whereas the City of Star desires to recognize and support those who are serving in these vital roles in our own community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Star announces its support of military and veteran caregivers in our communities. That the City of Star seeks to identify military and veteran caregivers residing in our communities and determine the unique challenges they face. That the City of Star encourages all who care for and support veterans and service members to extend that support to their caregivers. And that the City of Star shall work in concert with the Idaho State Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, to execute these tasks, thereby ensuring Idaho's military caregivers are identified, acknowledged for their service, and supported wherever possible. Adopted by the City of Star on this 19th day of March, 2024. So we'll have Miss Janice Beller. She's the Idaho State Regent for the Daughters of the American Revolution. She's been, 12 years? And I got a little bio here if you want me to read a little bit of it. She's been 12 years in the Daughters of American Revolution and Pioneer Chapter. During her time as State Vice Regent, Janice has worked to develop online tools to support Idaho State's conferences. She has worked with chapters to bring their online assets into compliance with new guidelines. For the last 5 years, this is what's impressive. She has personally assisted in the distribution of almost 4,000 pocket constitutions and made presentations on the American Revolution to over 1,200 local fifth graders. And I think that's so important to get this information out to our youth, right? During her term as chapter regent, Pioneer Chapter placed its first Daughters of the American Revolution historical marker in over 70 years, received Idaho's first NSDAR Special Projects Grant, and the chapter won numerous national NSDAR acknowledgments for its projects and initiatives, including Boise's first World War I memorial. Janice has many technical skills which she uses to create and maintain the chapter's website, in addition to modernizing many of the chapter's communication tools. She was recognized by the State Society as a Volunteer Information Specialist of the Year in 2018. And outside of the Daughters of the American Revolution, Janice is a criminal prosecuting attorney for Canyon County. Pretty impressive there too, huh? Thank you for that, by the way, because that's a pretty tough job. She's past chair of the Child Protection Section of the Idaho State Bar and graduated with the Idaho State Bar's Idaho Academy of Leadership for Lawyers. She continues to be her son's biggest fan as his musical prowess expands to performing in his band, is it Reverie?
Reverie.
Reverie. She has already begun preparing emotionally for Jeffrey's 2024 high school graduation, as has the one on my left here has done that too this last year. And still tries to avoid photographs whenever possible, but you're stuck.
tonight.
You're getting a photograph up here. So thank you for joining us. And she's going to give us a little bit more information regarding the Daughters of the American Revolution proclamation here.
Thank you so much, Mayor Chadwick and members of the council. Thank you so much, first and foremost, for getting on board and helping to support my project. I know we've talked a little bit about it, but just for context, at the beginning of my term as Idaho's state leading DAR officer, we're asked to pick a project to shine a light and to raise awareness about an issue that we're particularly passionate about. One of the major things that we always take very seriously within the Daughters of the American Revolution is supporting our veterans wherever we can. And when I began to learn through a friend of mine about the Hidden Heroes organization, about what they stand for, and realizing how many people just in my life alone are caregivers and don't realize they're caregivers, that was the call to action for me. And so we decided, capitalizing on those technical skills that I have picked up and acquired over the years, we wanted to be able to accomplish three main things within my 2-year administration. The first is to educate members of the public and to locate those caregivers where they are all throughout Idaho. Part of that is literally just beginning by educating people and helping them come to understand and see themselves as caregivers. And once we've educated them and they step forward, we want them to know immediately how much we support them, how much we appreciate their efforts, and letting them know that they're not alone. The information and the research that's out there tells us that most caregivers do these things, do these services, take care of their loved ones, and they do so, again, alone, feeling alone, thinking that this is just what life has dealt for them, what their journey or what their path looks like. So helping them to understand that they, in fact, are not alone, that they are seen, is very powerful. And so that's something we can all do really easily just by looking at the people, our friends and family around us, and recognizing them for what they do. Second is where you have all come in and stepped forward. And that is reaching out to our city and our county governments and having them speak in one voice all throughout Idaho to say, we see you and we support you and we have resources and people who are willing to help you and to guide you to the resources that are out there. And that's where the technical piece comes in. Part of my project is not a call to create any resources of our own in the DAR, but is simply to connect the caregivers we've now identified with the resources, both public and private, that already exist in the community, but that the two groups don't know about. The resources don't know about the caregivers don't know about the resources. And so we've created the hiddenheroesidaho.org website, which is a clearinghouse for resources that are available not exclusively in Idaho, but that are available in Idaho. It is an ongoing resource database that will continue to grow. It provides information and links to the National Hidden Heroes website, where they already have an extraordinarily strong community of caregivers that Idaho caregivers can plug into. And then it also is a way for folks to receive more information, more support about discrete topics applicable to caregivers. So those are the three main objectives of my project over the next 2 years. We are off to a fantastic start. And again, Star and the City of Star and you have all been on the leading edge of making that statement again, that Idaho absolutely, without equivocation, sees and cares for our veterans, for our veteran care, our military caregivers, and wants to do whatever we can to help make their burden even just a little bit easier. So again, I thank you so much for your time and consideration tonight.
Yeah, and thank you for the project. And Star has a growing veteran population, and with that is a growing caregiver population. So this is great. So we're going to do a picture up here. Are you coming up, Dana, to be in the picture too, right? And we're all going to go up here together.
I got a shot. Oh, sorry. Oh, it's pictures of you guys. I was helping. Can't read the contract. All right, 1, 2, 3. One last one. Got it. I did. Thank you. Thank you. Dana, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, we're good. We're going to let Jennifer grab some information real quick here. Thank you. And we're going to move on to item 4B. We're going to have Chief Hessing come up here with his monthly report, and then he has a guest here as well to give us a little presentation that he can introduce. Right?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Grateful to be here. Chief Zach Hessing, Star Police Department. I will quickly kind of go through this February report, and we'll introduce Lieutenant Kevin Lowry from the Sheriff's Office, who's going to come and help us look at what it looks like for a K-9 presentation here. So as I jump into the month here, are you okay behind me? Good. Okay. Good. Okay. So as we go through these real quick, I'm going to circle back around and I'm going to talk a little about the crime rate, because there's something there. I've had a few phone calls, a few people ask me about it, so I'll circle back around. But real quick, for February, we had a total of 7 person crimes, 4 property crimes, and 8 society crimes. And if you have any questions about those particular crimes, I have a little brief thing here before me. It kind of tells you what those person crimes or property or society crimes look like. Police activity, citizens call for service for the month of February was 218. And what I call proactive policing calls, that's where we self-initiate on calls, was 1,996. So we had a lot of proactive calls that we did this last month. We had an average about 9 calls to every 1 actual call for service. So and that's when somebody calls in, whether emergency or non-emergency dispatch, and ask for a deputy to respond. And just a reminder, those proactive calls, those range from a variety of calls, from traffic stops to school security checks to getting out and talking to kids at the skate park. I highly encourage all my guys, all the deputies out there to put in a call anytime they get out of their car and talk to somebody, so we can see where they're at, what they're doing, and kind of see what's helping out there. So we had quite a few the month of February. I think the highest I've seen yet. So that's good. The select call types, the only things really to note through there that I noticed was the juvenile activity jumped up to 19. We're a year ago, the same month, we were at 7. So I took a look at those. A lot of those juvenile calls are fights at the school. We had a couple of fights on the bus that happened. We had one kid jab another kid with a mechanical pencil. Those type of things that we dealt with, and some family fights where son or daughter gets in a fight with mom or dad and those type of things that we went there and we took a report on. So if you look at the traffic stops for the month of February, we made 440 traffic stops. Where a year ago, we're at 261 traffic stops for the month. So again, we're getting out there and making a lot more traffic stops. I just heard that we have about 20,000 cars coming through Highway 44 through the city of, our main city here, down the Highway 44 here in Star. So quite a few people coming through that we're making traffic stops on. Number of arrests, we had 10 total arrests, with one of those being a DUI arrest. We did add in misdemeanor citations. If you scroll up just a little bit on the, so right there near the bottom right, misdemeanor citations, we added that in. The reason for that is it shows, because anytime you write a misdemeanor citation, technically they could be arrested. But the only difference between making an actual physical arrest and taking them down to the jail is the fact that they get the ride to the jail and they get the booking photo. But misdemeanor citation, we do cite on different types of citations throughout there, or misdemeanor charges. We had 14 for a total of February. One of those is actually an arrest and a citation too. That's the only one throughout that is actually going to add as both. Again, what that means, when we do make a misdemeanor arrest and we physically take them to the jail, we still have to fill out a misdemeanor citation as part of the paperwork for that arrest. And so I called today to figure out how they're counting those. There's only one that's a duplicate of both an arrest and a misdemeanor citation. So we had 4 mental hold cases, and then our code 3 response time. So last month, I know I reported and I had mentioned that it looked like we had 0 for month of January. That was a mistake in the report. They found that mistake. We actually had 5, as you can see. And then this month of February, we had 3. I do see that we're creeping up on time for in-star code 3 calls. My goal, or the city's goal, is under 4 minutes. For both month of January and February, we're above that 4-minute mark, but we're averaging the last 4 months of 3 minutes and 24 seconds. I don't know exactly why we're going above that 4 minutes, but something I'm looking into and finding out why we're responding a little slower to those if we're on other calls or what's happening. So out of Star, looks like we had a total of 3 code 3 calls. Let me jump to the crime rate real quick, and hopefully if you have any questions, please ask, because I've had a few people reach out and ask questions. So I know back in, I think it was January timeframe, when we looked at adding more officers to the city of Star and adding our Ogden-Orchard police team, that the more traffic stops we make in the city of Star, our society crimes are going to go up, because society crimes, a lot of those are drug charges. And so you're pulling drugs out of the vehicles. And I knew that if we're more proactive out there, I mean, you can see just in the month of January or February compared to a year ago, we had 440, and a year ago we had 261. So we're making 180, kind of rough math, more traffic stops in the month of February this year than we did last year. So because of that, we are obviously getting more people that have marijuana, methamphetamine, different things in their cars. And that is a drug charge that's in the city of Star. So it's adding to our society crimes. So if you look at it, our society crimes jumped up by 51% from 2022 to 2023. So we had 67 in 2022, and we have 132 in 2023. But again, a lot of those society crimes are those drug charges, and that's what's adding to that crime rate of, looks like we're at 18.3 to 1,000 overall. But more importantly, if you look at the person crimes, if I'm looking at a city and how violent a city is, or the violence in the city, person crimes is where you more look. That's your aggravated batteries, your aggravated assaults, your rapes, your homicides, those type of things. That's going to be in that category. If you look at 2022 compared to 2023, in 2022 we had 110. In 2023 we dropped to 86. So we actually dropped 22% approximately. So that's the good thing.
And we're on track, if you do the math, to hit 66 this year.
Yeah. If you look at the map, with only
And
2 months a year.
Going down again.
Property crime did go up just a little bit by 13%. And that's, again, a lot of that is vandalism calls. We're getting a lot more juveniles in the area. We have vandalism calls, jockey boxing going around, opening doors, seeing what unlocked cars have in them, those type of things. So we are seeing a little bit. So when people talk about the crime rate going up, Overall, it did go up by 23%. But if you look at if you take out the society crimes that we're getting more and more drug charges in the city of Star because of the amount of traffic stops and how proactive we're being, I think it's pretty easy to explain why that's going up. But that's the report, and that's kind of my explanation on the crime rate, if anybody asks. But is there any questions that, Mr. Mayor, you have, or City Council?
No, we discussed it quite a bit together. The council have any questions of Chief? Councilman Wheelock?
Just one, you talked about, more traffic stops is pulling more drugs off the streets. Do you have an idea of what we're missing that a drug dog would affect?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, I don't know how to quite answer that. The lucky thing is tonight, so Lieutenant Kevin Lowry, with having the contract that we have with the Ada County Sheriff's Office, it makes my job easier because I can pull from experts. And Lieutenant Lowry ran a K-9 for several years himself, and now is lieutenant over our K-9 unit. And so he'll be able to maybe explain a little more of maybe what we're missing there. I do know, just so you know, when we do make a traffic stop, and he can probably explain a little better than I can because he's gone to all the different trainings than I have for the K-9 stuff. But you have to be very careful on time. If you impede the time at all, when you make a traffic stop, say for speeding, and you go up and you talk to that person when you come back, you can't stop unless you have articulable suspicion on something else rather than the speeding portion of that. You can't delay that stop even for a second longer than normal. So you can't delay it for a dog to get there. So the longer that dog takes to get there, if you think I need a K-9, the more chance you have that it's not going to get there in time to be able to sniff around that car to see if there's any drugs in it. And so it would be beneficial on those type of stops to have a K-9 very close by that you can have out there working the streets with your patrol deputies, specifically the POP team as they're being proactive with traffic stops.
Yeah, and that's maybe one of my parts of that question is maybe he can answer that better as to what percentage we might be missing.
Sure. And I'll see if he can answer a little better than I can. So
It's an interesting conversation when you think we can't hold anybody up, but if they're part of the problem, we'd like to address it.
absolutely. Yep.
Thank you for all you do.
Any other
questions?
questions? Thank you. Do you want to introduce?
Yep. Lieutenant Lowry. So like I said, this is Lieutenant Kevin Lowry from the Ada County Sheriff's Office. I don't know exactly how long he's been there. He actually he was one of my trainers when I came on at the Ada County Sheriff's Office. So got to know him right off the bat with him training me in South County. So, but I do know he's very good with his K-9. I saw him work his K-9. I rode around with his K-9 quite a bit when he was training me. So, no, I'll let him take over from here.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and hope I'm able to shed a little bit of light on your answers and give you a little bit of more information and let you make a good educated decision when it comes time. So as Chief Hessing said, I'm Kevin Lowry. I've been with the Sheriff's Office coming up on 17 years. Before I started promoting, I handled 2 separate drug dogs. And so I handled dogs for about 9 years. And it was probably the most rewarding part of my career. It's absolutely phenomenal. And now I have the opportunity to come back in the lieutenant function and supervise that unit now. So that's kind of why I'm here and what I'm about. What I'd like to do is just, while they're getting that queued up, is just bounce back a little bit to what Chief Hessing was talking about, because I don't address it in my PowerPoint. Several years ago, it was actually a Canyon County case that came out and said any delay of the stop at all without something else other than why you stopped them is illegal detention. So they went so far to break it down into seconds. If I stop my contact and ask for an assist on my radio, that's delaying the stop. So it has gotten progressively worse over the years because of that case law. And so the timeliness of a K-9 is a paramount value right now because typically we have one dog. The way our sheriff's office is organized, we have one dog on each team. So we have 24-hour coverage, 365 days a year. And so if that dog is at Maple Grove and Overland, you're not getting that dog here in time unless you have a lot to articulate that extension. So the articulation would be if you see something, smell something, you have other indicators of drug use, then you can extend that stop past why you stopped them. So as far as a percentage of what we're missing, that's really difficult to quantify. It's in the same vein as trying to quantify being proactive and being out in the neighborhoods as law enforcement, how much crime you suppress. We know you do because you're showing door and criminal sees you and maybe doesn't burglarize that car, but it's very hard to quantify and put a number on that. But it would, reasonably speaking, it's there, it's happening. So, you're welcome. Kind of the point of this is just give you a general overview. I'm happy to ask or answer any questions you guys have. And then if there's any follow-up questions, I'm happy to chat with you at a later date or through Chief Hessing. So just to give you a general idea of what we have right now. So the center dog, that chocolate, is my dog that I had when I started promoting. And my daughter was not really impressed with me when I had to give that dog up and start promoting. The upper left is Scout, and the bottom left is Dutch, and Walt's in the middle. And then the dog on the far right is actually Astrid, that was just stabbed and all over the news about a month and a half ago. I'm happy to present today that this morning, she recertified and is back in service. So that's pretty phenomenal. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of what we are right now. Right now, we have 10 canine teams. And the way that works is one dog on every county team. So days, late days, swings, and graves on both sides of the week. And then we have a dog in our pretrial that he's actually our trainer as well. So those dogs are who make up our team. 5 of them are what I like to call the floppy-eared dogs. They're your labs. They're your single-purpose drug dogs. And then 5 of them on our team are our dual-purpose dogs. They're your apprehension and dope dogs. So tonight I'm going to mostly focus, based on conversations I've had, mostly focus on that single-purpose floppy-eared dope dog. And so if you have questions about the other realm, I know all about that too, but I'll focus on the drug detection canine portion of it. For all of our teams to get certified, you have to go through a 160-hour school. So typically we unplug the handler and the canine. We just got done doing it. They certify, they did apprehension today, and they'll do narcotics on Thursday. So it's just wrapping up. We unplug that deputy and that dog for a month, and for 40 hours a week, they work their dog. They learn about canine care, first aid, maintenance, all the things that come with it. What happens if your dog ingests drugs, all the things that you need to know as a handler. And then that also gives that dog that opportunity to get a ton of reps on cars, packages, rooms, all those things. Past the 160 hours, the sheriff's office adheres to the national standard, which is 16 hours a month of reoccurring training. So every Tuesday we meet for 4 hours and we train on all different kinds of scenarios. We train on cars, packages, everything that we would certify on. And then that's our opportunity to say, hey, I had this deployment. Let's try to recreate that and give more exposure to the other dogs in the unit. And then it's every 18 months, but we do it every year just for ease of bookkeeping. We have to certify with post. So that certification is to prove that your dog is still reliable on vehicles, packages, rooms, and open area searches. So we do that yearly. One thing we do not have at the sheriff's office is bomb detection dogs. We have a very close working relationship with our neighboring agencies. With the airport, Boise Police has a lot of bomb dogs because of their TSA stuff. So they are usually more than willing to come help us at the courthouse, school events, anything where we have large gatherings of people. We rely pretty heavily on them. There's a potential in the future that we will be adding a canine to our courthouse team, but that's still to be determined. So if we don't have something, we usually rely on somebody else, and they rely on us as well. So to just give you an idea of when we talk about crime stats that Chief Hessing was talking about, just to give you an idea of our unit, a little bit of an asterisk, our unit over the last year, we've had a couple dogs retire, fail, get started. There's been kind of a couple dogs that are in and out. So this is not totally indicative of 10 dogs working a full year, but it'll give you a general snapshot. So in that year time period, We had 742 deployments on vehicles, 32 on residences, 41 in the school setting. We did 56 demos. We do those for anybody who asks pretty much. We love demos. That's my favorite part of handling a dog. You go interact with the public, and it's scouts, it's school, it's everything, and give them that education piece. It's phenomenal. And it's a great way to build those relationships with the community because everybody loves a dog. So those are really, really valuable things for us. And then we had 165 other for a total of 1,036 deployments. Those others, a lot of those others are partial sniffs at the post office. The postal inspector has a very good relationship with us, and they, even though they're in the middle of the city of Boise, they will call us and say, hey, could you come do a package sniff? And they'll set up a blind package sniff for us, and we'll be able to do that. So that's where a lot of those other sniffs come from. And in those, so I gave you two numbers on the amount of drugs that we seized in that year based on those deployments. The reason I gave you two numbers is the first number is the whole unit, but I also want to give you the most realistic picture that I can. So that's why I gave you the parentheses number. The parentheses number is indicative of our unit minus our interdiction team. So Tim Cooper is out on the freeway just slaying it. As you'll see the differences in the numbers, his fines they drastically skew our agency numbers because he finds so much, and it's usually load amounts. So I don't want to make you think that that's the standard. So I'll focus on the parentheses, but you can also see the main numbers there. So about $7,800 or $78,000 worth of marijuana. And as I go through these are the 4 odors that we certify and can find. Methamphetamines, $91,000 worth, $10,000 worth of cocaine, and $6,200 worth of heroin. Heroin has drastically reduced in the last 2 years because of fentanyl. The problem with fentanyl or any other substance like pills or anything like that is they're legal to possess. So if you have a prescription for them, you can have them. So we don't want to train our dogs on them because now we get into a Fourth Amendment issue of if we can search your car because my dog alerted on something that you legally possess. So that's why we only certify on those four substances. The side note to that, though, is most drug users are polydrug users. They use multiple drugs. They don't just focus on one. And so there's a chance that if they have that fentanyl illegally or the Norco or whatever it may be, they also have a little bit of weed or a little bit of meth or a little bit of heroin or a little bit of cocaine. So we'll find those other things along with the substance that is illegal. Almost 2,000 pieces of paraphernalia, $42,000 in cash. And when we seize cash, we have to prove to seize the cash, we have to prove that it's drug proceeds. And so oftentimes there'll be some sort of a ledger or large other indicators that it's from dealing drugs. Rather than just, yeah, you've got $500, we're going to take that. That's not how it works. We have to prove that it's tied to that. And then in order for them to get it back, they have to prove to the court that it was from legitimate sources. So it's a very sticky slide that we don't, unless we're really sure that that's where it came from, we're not out seizing people's cash. Along with that, we got 12 firearms, 8 warrants, 109 grams of mushrooms. Like I said, those poly users, we're not going to find the mushrooms, but we're going to find them based on an alert to one of the other 4 odors. 881 fentanyl pills, 969 grams of powder fentanyl. So fentanyl is just through the roof right now. So some of the uses for the canines, where we can use them and where we use them most often are traffic stops, calls for service, probation, parole assists, school searches, and community events. So the traffic stops are pretty self-explanatory. Calls for service a lot of times are, hey, I think Junior is using drugs and I don't want drugs in my house. Can you please come search his room? As long as Junior is under the age of 18, we are allowed to do that. We can search anywhere the parents give us consent to search, and we do that fairly often. Then if they're over 18, then they have that right to privacy just like a normal citizen would in their house. So that changes the dynamics a little bit. If someone's on probation parole and probation parole goes out with us and asks us to come, we can come. We can't proactively go knock on a probationer's door and say, hey, I'm going to search your house. That's not how the Constitution is set up for us here in Idaho. Some states are like that, but we are not. So probation parole has to be with us, and then we can go and do that. School searches, obviously schools are drug-free zones. We search lockers and parking lots fairly regularly. And when you have a canine in your department, in your community, you have the ability to do that more. Typically, that is a multi-dog response because it's such a large search area. It's typically to do a school properly, you're 4 to 6 dogs to get it done. And then community events, that's what I was talking about earlier, the demos and the community days and things like that. Where we can't use them, private property, and then some calls for service, like I was talking about. If you're over the age of 18, you still have that right to privacy. If we don't have a reason to be searching in your house, we can't do that. You just have that same Fourth Amendment rights as any citizen would with a non-canine deployment. So I put that cute guy up there because I'm going to tell you about the cost to add a canine. So I broke it up into two categories: one-time costs and a reoccurring cost. So right now, a single-purpose floppy-eared drug detection canine is about $9,000. So that is a reoccurring cost. Earlier before the meeting, Mr. Mayor, we were talking about lifespan of the dogs, how long they work. The single-purpose detection dogs are typically in that 8 to 10 year range. We typically get them in the 1.5 to 3 year range, and so we usually end up getting a good 9 or 10 years of service out of them. So that would be a reoccurring cost every 9 or 10 years. But to start, that would be your $9,000. And our vendor is Pacific Coast Canine. We've used him for, probably 7 or 8 years. He's up in Washington, and we trust him so much when we're in a pinch and we can't make it up there. We tell him, hey, just ship us a dog. He produces a phenomenal dog. So that's our vendor for that. And then to get the dog and the handler set up properly at home, be it a kennel, bowls, dishes, toys, all the things that you think of needing a dog, it's probably a little bit high, but in that $1,000 to $1,500 range, which brings you for your first startup cost of $10,500. More expensive part is your reoccurring cost. The most expensive is your cost for the deputy, and that's going to match what's in your contract currently. So that should be no surprise. Same thing with the vehicle cost. That's the same as your current contract or contract coming up. That lease split over 5 years. And then same thing for the vehicle maintenance. That's what's currently going on. This is historically quite low, actually. When you think about it, it depends on how much your handler boards the dog, but between food, boarding, and vet bills, we budget $4,720 for our current dogs. And so that's what we would start here, knowing that it's one medical emergency away and that money is depleted. Slam a dog's tail in the door or something, they break a tooth, those things add up quickly. But that's a good starting point. So the canine compensation. So federal law requires us to compensate the handler, and every agency does it a little bit differently. We do it in such a way that they get 0.5 hours on their timesheet every day, working or not. And the reason for that is canine maintenance fee or canine maintenance costs, and that is for them to basically take work home with them 24 hours a day. They have to care for that animal off duty, on duty, after their shift, all that, and that's how they're compensated, is with that 0.5. So when you calculate that 0.5 across the average hourly salary of a deputy, you get about $8,500 a year.
And does that go into overtime at all, ever?
So the 0.5, the way our time system works is it is not calculated an overtime rate. It is a flat rate. No matter if they work 100 hours of overtime in that pay period or not, it's a flat 0.25 or 0.5. So that's a fairly fixed number. There are times that if we're in an overtime crunch and things are not looking good at the end of the fiscal year, I've had to do it personally, and it's possible it would happen again where we were asked to flex that. We have to go home a half hour early. You're still compensated, so that number would slightly go down, but it would never go up from that. So canine conference and training. So for each one of our handlers, we budget $1,200 a year for a conference. That allows them to keep their skills sharp, make sure they're up on current practices, current case law, and make sure that they're operating at the highest level they can. On top of that $1,200 to get to that $3,500 is those Tuesday trainings I spoke of. If they are able to flex 3 of the 4, meaning go home early, come in late, that kind of thing, that $3,500 number comes from them being paid for one of the 4 trainings per month over 12 months. So that's the 1,200 plus the other 1,300 or 2,300 to get us to 35. So that brings your reoccurring cost to 191 and your first year at 202 when you add the 10.5 from the previous slide. Sorry, that was a lot of information. I tried to be respectful of your time.
That works. You got questions there? I'm sure. Councilman Wheelock, I know.
Maybe. So as we look at adding an officer that handles a K-9, and maybe Chief Hessing is part of the same conversation, but we have 151,930 for an officer and a 202,000 first year. Is that something that in our contract we would switch? We could add an officer that was a K-9 officer and handle and just swallow the $50,000 difference between those two contracts?
I would defer to Mr. Contract Guy.
So Chief Hessing here, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Wheelock. So yes, we could. My only fear about doing that is something we absolutely could do. We can take, because right now the contract is already paying for deputies. We can take one of those deputies and we can replace them with a K-9 handler and a K-9. My only fear, talk with the mayor, is that means how the program would work within the city, within Ada County Sheriff's Office of pulling that, is we already have 10 patrol deputies out there working in the city of Star and they love it. Let's say that one of them wants to become a K-9 handler and they go to testing. If they don't test and actually test well and don't become, in the K-9 team, part of the K-9 team, then we're going to have to move a person out and bring a K-9 handler in. And so that was one of my concerns, that I would hate to have a guy who loves working a Star, forcing him to move out so I could replace him with a K-9 handler. If we feel like the K-9 is the right thing to do for the city of Star, we absolutely can arrange that and make that work. The other issue we run into is, because there's 2 sides of the week, so we have blue side and silver side. If you have the K-9 on one side of the week, then silver side is not going to have the K-9 there. The idea behind what we have here, and again, if kind of depending on how the city wants to do it, if we did add a K-9, say this next fiscal year, and a K-9 handler, I would put them on the problem-oriented police team, the POP team. And so they would actually touch both sides of the week and be able to just be proactive with their K-9 helping with traffic stops. If we add just the K-9 to an already positioned deputy, then what we'd have to do is that deputy would still have to answer calls for service, and it wouldn't just be a focus of proactive with the dog, which that's what a lot of the Ada County deputies, K-9 handlers do right now anyways, or they're answering calls for service just like any normal deputy out there. But it is nice if they can break away from that and just focus on helping with traffic stops and running the dog itself. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. We could do both ways. It is a lot. It saves quite a bit of money if we just add the K-9 itself. But
Yeah, and I'm not against, if we need it, we need it. I'm good with that. But we added enough officers in the last year that I would expect that we might be able to have an officer go test, try that out. If he passes, then we move forward with the dog and move it that direction, adding officers as we need to keep to our population that we wanted to stay at anyway. But it would be a gentle entry versus here's an extra $200,000.
yep. And
So a soft entry into that world and have it grow with us as we grow. And I got to circle back for just a minute here. Thank you, Chief.
Can I add on just real
Sure.
quick, sir? So to upfit a vehicle, so if you did that, then you obviously wouldn't have the cost of the vehicle. To upfit a vehicle is about $7,000 because you got to put the cage and take partitions out, and there's some labor that goes with that. So that would be a cost that we didn't cover here. That would be included in that.
I get that all. And my other question is, if we have that canine in our town, you talked about 4 or 5 dogs being able to sweep a school. If he were here in our town, we could regularly go through a wing of our school at a time, or is that not a
Absolutely.
thing?
100%.
That makes sense, so that one dog could cover it. We wouldn't have to have 5 dogs where he would be our town dog, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. And that would be also open to discussion with the SRO to be like, hey, could you come focus on this section of the parking lot?
He's gonna know our school better than anybody.
Absolutely. And then historically, what we've done to get those 4 to 6 dogs to sweep specifically like a larger school, high school, and even Star Middle, that's a large area. We'll do it on those Tuesday training days. And so you get the entire unit here. And then you have dogs running lockers, dog running parking lot, and you kind of split up the work. If you
welcome-
wanted to
you're
parse it out,
welcome
you
to
could.
Come here and train Tuesdays regularly.
Perfect.
We could get an affordable dog. We'll get 4 of them. Thank you.
Any further questions,
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman?
so along the school sweeping line, would that include Owyhee since that is not in our city limits?
So typically like a Owyhee would be Meridian PD. If a call happens at a Owyhee, they're going to have their SRO there. If the SRO were to coordinate with us, we'd absolutely go do that. We work very well with Meridian and Boise and Garden City. We train together often. We're very familiar with each other's units. If that SRO would like a school search done, we'd be happy to participate in that along with the Meridian dogs, since it'd be them lining it up essentially, but it would absolutely be an option.
So just so I understand correctly, so you're saying like Meridian currently has a canine unit they have a canine unit in their police department?
Yes.
So they're sweeping or they're going through that school when called?
Yes, Boise, Meridian, and Garden City all have their own units. And so if their SRO reaches out to them, they would typically handle that. But being as though Star feeds in there, we'd be happy to be a part of that as well.
Well, and we feed in the Eagle, so I would see them go in the Eagle because the Eagle's contract city too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that's very,
Yep.
very feasible.
Any further questions, Lieutenant? Oh, Councilman Nielsen?
I don't have any questions. I just really appreciate the information. And I think this is an exciting step that we're considering here. So thank you.
Time very much.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, okay, we're going to move on to item 4C. We have Chief Victor here to come talk about the Star Fire monthly report. I think Greg's out of town, right? Yep.
All right. Good evening. It's different being up here. Victor Eastloss, Deputy Chief for Star Fire Department. Mayor, Council, thank you. Chief Tominski is traveling this evening. He should be landing any moment. But he's in Henderson, Nevada, looking at a fire engine. So this month, we prepared a report for you and kind of just breaks down year to service dates as of right now. So our total calls for the year so far, 223 calls. You can see from last month to this month, we are down 15 calls, which in our service isn't a bad thing. And so over the last month, we did respond to a couple of structure fires, pretty significant damages to the homes. A lot of these structure fires were in our areas where we don't have hydrants. And it's a day-to-day type of thing that we face when we cover rural districts. But within this report, though, as well as you can see that we just increase in call volume. You figure right now we're adding about 100 calls a year for the Star Fire District, and this is significant. When I started in 2003 with the fire district, we were responding to 100 or 250 calls a year. And now we're hitting that almost a month sometimes. And so we're just getting busier and busier. I do know last month you asked a question about what the good intent call was. And so I'm working on a little sheet for you guys so that way you guys can have a little cheat sheet for you. But the good intent calls is they call 911 and we get there and there's no emergency. Or somebody sees steam coming out of a roof and we get there and it's a vent. Or somebody calls 911 and then goes, oops, I'm sorry, we didn't need you. So those are just, the intention was good, but when we get there, they didn't need us. And so with that, I'll stand for any questions.
So it's safe to say that the bigger structure fires that you're seeing are falling in to the county developments? I mean, like the one that we just had recently up on the hill,
Yeah, the one in the hill was in the county.
and they don't have any, they didn't have any fire flow of anything there really for you
Correct.
to fight that.
Yeah,
And I think talking to Greg, and you'll probably know more because you're always on scene on these things. How many tanker trucks did you have to bring up?
So
And how
that
many
day-
times did you have to fill?
yeah. So that day we had a total of 6 water tenders on site that were assisting us. And we had to send those 6, we split them up, sent some up into the Hillsdale area and then down to Middleton, close to City Hydrant to fill. And so when we're doing tanker shuttles, we line them up and we go round and round with those. And you have to take into account fill time and then travel time back to the site. And so our water supply officer, whoever that is, starts timing that so that we can add more if we need it to keep that continuous water flow. And so, in particular for that one, it was 6. And that was a hard one because we had bad winds that day. It was a Saturday with a big gust, and so fire, gust of wind, they don't mix really well.
And how many different agencies do those 6 tankers come from?
So we brought those in from Parma, Caldwell, Gem County, San Hollow. We were able to get ours there as well, and I believe Nampa.
And so I guess my whole point is this is some of the challenges you have with county style developments when you don't have fire suppression.
Yeah, Mayor, I think the biggest challenge is that, when you have a structure fire and you're getting our resources there, you set up a resource plan and it's like, well, I can get an engine there with 4 people and have manpower, or I get a water tender with 1 person with 4,000 gallons. So what is the right one to get there first, right? Because you need the people and you need the water. Because not every station has a water tender that's available. And you're using mutual aid resources that are out there. And so, a couple of those mutual aid resources are volunteer agencies that are at work or out in the field working. Pagers go off, they have to go get the apparatus from the station and then respond. So, it's just it's a daily thing for us that we come accustomed to. In a perfect world, we'd have hydrants everywhere, or we'd have every apparatus and station that would have a tender and somebody to operate.
What's the response, or what's the disbursement time on a 4,000 gallon apparatus?
It would all depend, Mary Luck, or Mary Luck, Councilman Wheelock.
We'll talk about that
We'll
later.
talk about that later. No, Councilmember Wheelock. It would all depend on the hose that we were using. So 1 3/4 versus 2.5 versus master stream device, all the way down to the nozzle, because we have different nozzles that control different gallons per minute. So it would really depend on what the person actually
Fire needed.
what the fire needed, who was pumping the apparatus, and what the firefighter was using.
Okay. Any further questions, Chief? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Awesome. We'll move on to item 5, the consent agenda.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman?
before I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, I have a couple of questions I just wanted to ask first. So first one is regarding, let's see, the claims. I noticed that there was a claim for Freedom Park for over $1 million. So I
That's
would
for our
like you,
project.
yeah. So if you wouldn't mind just talking about some of those upgrades that we just paid
Well,
for.
so Freedom Park, and we agreed last year to move on with that project. Or the developers put it in $500,000 and we're putting in up to $3 million to that park. So some of that is the site work that's been going on, the sprinkler systems that are being put in, the rock walls that are being put in, the concrete work that's being done, survey work that's being done, all of that.
Do you have any idea how much we've spent year to date and how much we
On
have
that
left in
park?
our budget for the park? Yeah.
We have about, I think it's about 1 million left on that park.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
Great, thank you. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. Another question in the claims, I noticed that there was one for the chamber, and it was also included in the February 20th claim report. And so I just wanted to make sure that
What
that
is it?
wasn't double paid, I guess. It was just a membership fee, I think for $150 to the Star Chamber. It was a yearly fee and it was included in the February 20th.
So we found that we had not paid them last fiscal year, and so they sent us an additional invoice this year.
Oh, so we're paying for
we're caught up.
last back year.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that was about the claims. And then let's see. Let's see. That was my only question. So I will go ahead and move to,
So just before
Yeah.
you move to that, on 5E, the Naismith Commons is the one that we pulled off before.
Yep.
And you got your questions answered.
did.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So I'll move that we approve the consent agenda consisting of item 5A, the approval of claims provided and previously approved, approval of minutes for January 30th, 2024, findings of fact, conclusion of law for Frontier Credit Union conditional use permit with the change, let's see, it's on page 10 or 34 in the packet. The public hearing date needs to be changed to 2/6/24.
You got that?
2/6/24. Item 5D, findings of fact, conclusion of law for Star Point 2 subdivision, preliminary plat and private street with 2 corrections. Give me just a second. First one is on page, sorry.
Is this that one, Ryan, right here? Okay,
Yeah, Star Point. Let me make sure I'm in the right one. So on page 18, is that
the last page?
Star Point? Yeah, yep. The last page, there's no date there. So we need to add February 20th, 2024.
So where did you want the date?
At the end of the sentence.
Oh, on,
paragraph.
okay, I see, right there, Ryan. Right where your thing is on, applications on. February 20th, 2024, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the second one? I think you said 2.
I did. Let me see. There's
there's
one
another one.
more.
Yeah.
Yep. And on page 1, the agency transmittal should be changed to July 19th, 2023.
Where's that at? Oh, wait.
Under
From what?
section B.
From July 14th to July 19th, is that what you're saying?
No, it says September 7th. Under section B, it should be changed to July 19th. And I went back and looked at the packet and verified that information. It's just a wrong date was pulled.
So you see, it's okay, we got that.
Yes, instead of September 7th, it needs to be changed to July 19th.
Okay,
And item 5E, the final plat for Naismith Commons subdivision phase 2.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Do we want a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second by Councilman Nielsen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson,
Aye.
Nielsen.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item 6A. You can pull that one up, Brian, for me. So this is the Pavilion Park Phase 2. Basketball irrigation. When we say basketball irrigation, it's not for the irrigated basketball court, but it's that side of the Pavilion Park over there. We broke it up into 2 different, so we got A and B. A is one half of the park at $23,151 to put the irrigation in. And B is the east side, which is 20,530 with Sunshine, who did the original for our dog park and put the original system in out there. As we are moving, it's not in our budget, so we're gonna need to add it to our budget. We need to get this done. They're working on a pricing for us to put the grass and stuff in here as well, and we'll bring that to you in April. But this is for them to get started on the sprinkler work out there we have the pickleball courts and the basketball court going in. The restroom facilities going in the 1st of April and all this, and then that park is done.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Wheelock.
is this, we've changed contractors from when we put it in, the dog park, is that correct?
Not for sprinklers.
Sprinklers were, because we had some challenges in the implementation of the dog park.
It was not this,
Not this-
not
not
the
Sunshine.
outfit. It was more of the general, I guess, on the project, not the actual subcontractor.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep. Any questions on that? I'd entertain a motion to approve those so we can move forward. And it'll come out of our Park Impact Fee Fund. And if you're going to ask me the question, there's about $2 million in that fund. So I'll answer that beforehand.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
move to approve and authorize the project for Pavilion Park Phase 2 basketball irrigation in the amount of $23,151.47, not to exceed.
Okay, we had a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion, a second by Councilman or Councilwoman Solomon. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
So clarification is it's coming out of the Park Impact
Correct.
Fund in your motion, correct, Nielsen?
Well, that's where it doesn't have to be in his motion. We can
Just
direct.
covering it.
Huh?
Just covering it, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson,
Aye.
Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, item B is the same thing on the east side. Entertain a motion for that one.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman Solomon.
I move that we approve and authorize the project, the Pavilion Park Phase 2 Pickleball East Irrigation, not to exceed $20,530.55 coming out of the Park Impact Fund.
Okay. Got it?
Second.
Yeah, we got a motion, a second by Councilman Nielsen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Salmonson,
Aye.
Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. We're going to move on to item 6C, the resolution for the Star City Hall Public Art Exhibit Master Plan. I'm going to have Miss Jennifer talk about this, as this is
Sure.
part of her project.
Yeah, so, Mayor, I think you came to the Parks Art and Beautification Committee with the idea of adding public art to City Hall so we could have it on display. And so we have done that. I think currently we're in our third artist exhibit, but we didn't have a policy in place. And so I wrote this resolution, and then with the committee's help, we have an application all ready to go and a master plan for how the program will run. And so, I mean, hopefully you've all had a chance to read through it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
You guys have any questions of Miss Jennifer? Councilwoman Solomon?
Yeah,
Councilman Wheelock? Sure.
so with this,
Yeah, so we're
art plan, is it to use the boards that we've already got and we're just changing out artwork inside the
yeah,
hall?
Yeah, so I believe it was last year, we approved a hardware, like a hanging system to hang the artwork out there. And so this one that we have out there right now isn't using that system, but the other two have. And part of our requirement through this program is that it will, the artwork will be mounted in a certain way that they're going to be required to use that hanging hardware system that we installed. So we will be using what we've already purchased. We don't have to, buy anything extra.
That solves my question. I didn't want to add a budget line for something that we didn't need to when we'd already purchased it.
Yeah, so
If that's the case, then
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, the Park Art and Beautification Committee, they'll have some like minor expenses that they'll need to, purchase like some command strips for the little, each piece, they have an acrylic frame and like to replenish some of the minor things.
That'll be.
So
And they'll-
usable
And that's-
supplies.
Yeah, and that's gonna come, and they're gonna budget for that in their request to council.
Okay. Any further questions?
Mayor Chadwick?
Councilman Nielsen?
Yeah, so when an artist is selected, I guess I've got a question is, do we have a criteria for how artists are selected? And a yes or no is fine on that. But then following that, when an artist is selected and they bring their artwork in, is there any sort of protection for that artwork? Like if somebody were to come in and vandalize, is the artist protected? Is the city protected? Has that been contemplated?
Yeah, Councilman Nielsen, thank you for the question. Yes, there is criteria. The Park Art and Beautification, also known as PAB, we'll just start saying that. So they will receive the applications, and then there's a line in here that says it can't include profanity or be like it has to be appropriate for all audiences. And so the committee will go through, the applicants required to submit 5 pieces of artwork as examples. And then the committee will also come and be a part when the artist puts up the artwork to make sure that there's nothing inappropriate that's on display. Yes, there is criteria and the artist is agreeing to that on this application form. Regarding the responsibility by the city, if the artwork is damaged, there is none. We have the artist complete a artwork agreement. It is included in the packet. If you scroll down a little bit, our city attorney has looked at it, and we have had the last artist use this form, and basically, they're taking all risk, by displaying their artwork. And so the city is not responsible if it gets stolen, if it gets damaged.
Did that answer your questions?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further questions of Ms. Jennifer? I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor Chadwick.
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we approve Resolution 2040-010, Star City Hall Public Art Exhibit Master Plan.
Okay. You want to go to that resolution for me, Ryan, that draft one?
Do I need to read it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's yours. You're going to read it.
Okay. Thanks.
Love it.
Yeah, use the number on it right there. Yeah, 11.
Just the bold part, right? Or do you want me to read the whole thing? I mean, I did write it, but I won't bore you.
No, you can just read the top.
All
part
right,
there.
Resolution 2024-011, Star City Hall Public Art Exhibit Master Plan. A resolution of the City of Star, Idaho within Ada and Canyon counties, creating the Star City Hall Public Art Exhibit and providing an effective date.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Mayor Chadwick?
Councilman Nielsen.
I second the motion.
We have a motion, a second by Councilman Nielsen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you for putting that together.
Mayor Chadwick?
Councilwoman?
Can I just put out to the public that we will have the application online? Hopefully, it's ready, so I'll send that off to the city to have posted, and we'll start accepting applications at any day.
And I'm going to just tell you, this artwork out here is pretty bright. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
With the skylines of Boise and stuff like that. So that's pretty neat. So well done. All right, we're going to move on to item 6D, an ordinance for the Keely Rezone and Development Agreement. We do need to suspend of the rules.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen,
I move to introduce and, I move to introduce ordinance number 399-2024, Keely Rezone, and that pursuant to Idaho Code Section 50-902, the rule requiring an ordinance to be read on 3 different days, with one reading to be in full, be dispensed with, and that ordinance number 399-2024 be considered after reading once by title only.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson,
I,
Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Now we need to move to approve the ordinance.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen,
I move to approve ordinance 399-2024, an ordinance rezoning certain real property located in the city of Star, Ada County, Idaho, more specifically located at 856 South Star Road in Star, Idaho, Ada County parcel R1842701822. The property is owned by Clint and Jill Keely, establishing the zoning classification of the rezoned property as Central Business District with a development agreement CBD-DA on approximately 1.06 acres. Directing that certified copies of this ordinance be filed as provided by law, providing for related matters, and providing for an effective date.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion?
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
I did find, I believe there needs to be a correction. It is on page 1, on the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth whereas, the date needs to be changed from January 16th to February 6th.
Okay. You want to amend your motion? with
Mayor
that
Chadwick.
correction?
I'll amend the motion to correct the date, January 16th, 2024 to February 6th, 2024.
And I will second
Okay,
my second.
thank you. Any further discussion? You got another one?
No.
Okay. Roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson,
I,
Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. On the item 6E, the ordinance for Talega Village. And we need to suspend of the rules on this one.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman?
I move to introduce ordinance 400-2024, and that pursuant to Idaho Code Section 50-902, the rule requiring an ordinance to be read on 3 different days with one reading to be in full be dispensed with, and the ordinance number 400-2024 be considered after reading once by title only.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson,
I,
Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
I move that we approve ordinance 400-2024, Talega Village Annexation Rezone and Development Agreement. An ordinance annexing to the city of Star certain real property located in the unincorporated area of Ada County, Idaho, and rezoning certain real property located in the city of Star, Ada County, Idaho, more specifically located at 58 North Truman Place and 8370 West Schultz Court, Ada County parcels, R3720002880, R3720003030, R3720002500, R3720002480, R3720001505, R3720002412, and S0409417201. The property is owned by CIG Enterprises LLC, establishing the zoning classification of the annexed property as residential with a development agreement R-10-DA and establishing the zoning classification of the rezoned property as residential with a development agreement, R-10-DA, with a total of approximately 55.68 acres, and reestablishing the zoning classification of the rezoned property as general business district with a development agreement, C-2-DA, of approximately 18.93 acres. Directing that certified copies of this ordinance be filed as provided by law, providing for related matters and providing for an effective date with a couple of changes. Thank you for your patience. Coming up, okay, on page 114,
114?
yep. In the packet. Let's see, I guess it's a development agreement. First page of the development agreement.
You make it smaller?
There you go, right there. Oh, maybe, yeah, right there. Okay, so the seventh whereas, which is the second one from the bottom. We need to, I believe we need to include in the files, CUP 22-05. That was in the original and not included here. And then the one that says PR-23-08 needs to be changed to PR-2208.
Okay, so real quick though,
Yep,
did the private road come later or did it come at the same time? Did it show up in the previous application as 2-2?
it did.
Okay, all right. Okay.
And I'm sorry, Councilwoman Tomlinson, what was your first one? I'm still writing.
Yeah, so we need to add the CUP 22-05 file. That was also in the original,
Okay.
but not included here.
Okay, thank you.
And then let's see, change, and if you'd fix in, number 7.2, there's a typo. And it's in a lot of them. You could just fix that.
7.2?
7.2 in the development agreement, where it says feminine or neutral gender. It needs to be neutral. Neutral? Neutral. Oh, yeah, you're right. Then I guess they changed it. Sorry, my eyes. Okay, so just the one change then. But I do have a question about item 2.6. I have the motion on the table, but on item 2.6, we have that the ITD proportionate share would be paid at the time of building permit and or signature of the final plat.
Correct.
So I wasn't here for that public hearing. So I was, in other ones, it is at the time of building permit. So I'm wondering why the and or final plat was added to this.
Because we have both in this application for the apartment complex where they can get a permit. It's not a platted piece. And then you have the townhomes and the residential units, which will be platted. I believe they're
Okay.
two different things, so they got to both be in here.
Okay, and so that's spelled out somewhere, like when they would pay?
Yeah, at the time of building permit for the apartments, they would be paying for it when they build the apartments. And at the time of the final plat's signature, they pay for them on the other two phases.
Okay, so I didn't see that clarification.
I guess what needs to be clarified.
Because could they come back and say, well, I'm not going to pay the fee until the building permit for the residential section?
No,
No? Okay.
no, we're good. on
Okay.
that. Yeah, because they don't, it's all internal and they don't get their permit unless for those apartments until they pay that
Right.
fee for the 340 apartments or whatever it is that they have. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that,
Yep,
answering that question, and I will, that's my motion.
that's a big, long motion. You got that? We have a motion. We have a second?
I'd second that, but what happens if we just read it 3 times and have Jennifer go over motion 3 times?
And it's gonna,
Hopefully I would get better at it.
all right. So we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen?
Look, I just want to commend Councilwoman Salmonson on her reading both of the consent agenda and this ordinance. These may seem like minor discrepancies, but they're meaningful. And I need to up my game. So thank you for setting that example and for finding these things here tonight.
All right,
Amazing to catch those for sure.
roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson,
Aye.
Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. It is 8:20, and that's the end of our agenda. So we are adjourned.